Welcome to Backyard Farmer. I'm Kim Todd, and I'll be your host for another hour of answering your gardening questions. You can contact us by dialing 1-800-676-5446, or you can email us your questions and pictures for a future show. That's byf@unl.edu. Please tell us as much as you can, including where you live. Don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel for all those educational features, shorts, past programs, and a lot of fun. We've also got a loyal crowd of our fans on our Facebook page, so you can check that one out after the show. And we have brought back samples, and we have quite an array tonight. Kyle, we all thought that was an insect, and it is. So what do you have tonight?
Yeah, well, I have some pine needles pinned here. And on those, we have pine needle scale. So it's this very small little kind of white spot there. And this is something that's going to be emerging pretty soon this spring. So these, like the name would suggest, they attack a variety of pines. Can also find them occasionally on Douglas fir or some spruce, but most problematic on pines, especially Scotch pine. And usually in sort of early May, we'll see the crawlers emerge. And that's really the ideal time to treat for these. However, because we are a little bit ahead of schedule this spring so far, I would anticipate that we're probably going to see these crawlers emerging like late April. So something to be on the lookout for. So when these population densities build up, they can cause needle dieback, branch dieback. They can be quite problematic. And what you're looking for with those crawlers is these very small little kind of pink specks that will move around on the needles. Ideally, you want to treat for those in spring because that's when they are, there's a narrow window and you can use like an insecticidal soap or horticultural oil.
All right, thanks, Kyle. That's quite a sample, Matt.
Yeah, I brought a couple samples, I guess. I got this sad henbit plant, this little guy, and then this big, happy, sad henbit plant because he lost his root, so he's kind of wilty. But I just wanted to show quickly like some of these winter annuals that are coming up. This is henbit. It's a winter annual, come up last fall, and now it's growing really, really fast. So you can see what it starts like. You give it a week, and then it looks like this one over here that's nice and large and flowering. So if you're going to treat it, make sure you treat them when they're at the small stage because you can actually kill them with a broadleaf herbicide. When they get to this big stage, a lot of that herbicide gets tied up in the top leaves and you don't get it down into the canopy, so you're not going to end up killing that plant. So it's better off digging it out or doing something else, mowing it off before it seeds out for next year's crop. And then another one that I thought was interesting was I found these little guys emerging out of the ground, and what it is it's a yellow nutsedge tuber that has a shoot. So this will probably be out in about a week. So just keep those areas that are bare that maybe got killed off last year from the drought and just keep an eye on it. Mesotryon's a good one if you're going to seed, and it helps with yellow nutsedge.
All right, excellent. That looks like a weapon, Loren.
It does. First, I want to thank Matt because now I'm having henbit tea,
Yeah.
which you couldn't see off camera. It was being dipped in my
Yeah.
tea. It was really good. Thank you.
It's good. You're
It's
welcome.
very good. It's very nutritious. A lot of people are out cleaning up the landscape too, and it's a time when maybe you're seeing some dead growth on your shrubs and such. So I brought along something that is a type of canker tonight, and this is crown gall. I don't know where it's going to show up at. There it is. Okay. And you can just see that real irregular shaped galling that forms around that. Some of our other cankers produce all types of different symptoms of swelling. This one has that kind of rugose roughness to it. And with this is actually a bacterial infection that many times will be spread through pruning and such. So if you see this in your landscape, this is something that's not going to go away. If it's on the base, many times we might see it on the base of a rose or something, where they do grafting. That's something that can be just simply rogued out if it's at the base of a plant, unless you can just enjoy it, but just be careful that you're not going to spread it. You'd want to cut it out of a limb or something about 7 inches below the affected area, and that's the best thing you can do for management.
All right.
Crown gall.
Thank you very much. Scott, you have some fun things as well tonight.
Right. spring's in the air. A lot of us have been in the garden center, and we're starting to see all sorts of fruits and vegetables pop up. Onions is one of the plants that we can either start from seed, which that window has closed, or you can choose to go with a onion sets, which are these tiny little onion bulbs, and these are going to be guaranteed to give you your plant for this year. The downside when it comes to onion sets is we either get to choose red, yellow, or white. We don't really get to choose what type of cultivar. So if you're going to try to store your onions, you might want to try to go with our onion transplants. And they look kind of sad, and they're actually live onions that were started from seeds earlier, and this gives us the opportunity to choose the cultivar that we want to go with. So if we're looking to store onions, probably not so much of your sweet onions, more of your traditional savory onions are store better than the sweet. So now's the time to start getting these in the ground.
All right, excellent. Nice job, everybody, on interesting samples. All right, Kyle, you're first up for the first round of questions. You have 2 pictures on this one. She is asking, what are these pods on the tree? And you can see the kind of the tree itself there. And I think we have another picture that's a little bit closer up. And of course, people want to know what are the pods, and then what do we do with the pods?
These are our bullet galls. So this, I'm assuming oak. So these are caused by a synipid gall wasp, and there's a particular genus that they all make sort of these slightly different bullet galls on oaks. So I think in one of those, at least, you can see that there's a little hole there. So they're no longer present. They've already come out. They do that in the fall. And so really at this time, there's nothing you can do. They don't harm the tree. It's really just cosmetic. So nothing you can really do. They sometimes will fall off on their own, and if you don't like the look, you can maybe just remove those, but they shouldn't harm the tree.
All right, and we're seeing a lot of those on oaks around all of a sudden. You have one picture on the next one. This comes to us from Lincoln. It's a volunteer hackberry that came up in the shade. It's doing really well. There's lots of others in the neighborhood, but they want to know what these are on the end of it, and are they harmful, and should they do anything about it?
Another gall, it's not really harmful, so not really a cause of concern. This is a hackberry petiole gall. So like probably, if you've seen a hackberry, you've seen those, the nipple galls on leaves. Basically every hackberry has those. This is caused by a psyllid. This is like a very closely related psyllid in the same genus, but this one does it on the petiole. Doesn't hurt the tree. So, if they do emerge in the spring, so if you don't like the look of it, you could prune those out in the winter, and that, should reduce the number, but it doesn't harm anything.
All right, excellent, thanks. Okay, Matt, you have 3 pictures on this first one. It comes to us from Fairbury. She said she found these plants growing in the yard, doesn't know if they're weeds or flowers, and then she has, I think the third picture is little bulbs. So they don't know what's going on here.
All right. Yeah, this one was, it almost looks like pumpkins or something growing there, but looking at them, the way they're growing, they are sunflowers. So odds are it was from birdseed, or somehow you had sunflower seeds that spilled in a spot that weren't cooked or something, and they just all grew with the warm weather. Obviously bare soil sitting there too, so to control those, basically you can pretty much just mow them off. It'll kill them because they're sunflowers and they won't keep growing. You take that top off and maybe throw some seed in that area just to get it going. And then in the last picture, those bulbs, it looks like it could have been the plant that's growing near them. That was wild onion, and that one is coming up really, really good now this time in the spring. They're usually the first thing to really clump up and grow. And if you can, just dig those out. If you spread them around, they will keep growing for the rest of the year, and they'll continue to spread in the years to come.
All right, and on that note, you have one picture on the next one from Omaha, which is a viewer that has a perennial flower bed. She says overrun with chives. She's pulled, she's dug. Can she cover the chives with cardboard? What do we recommend?
Yeah, I don't know. The best way to get rid of chives would probably be to dig them out. So if you can, you go in there and you dig out what you can. And then the next thing I would suggest is maybe pulling away all the loose material, getting down there and getting those chives out as best you can. And then mulching maybe 2 to 3 inches with a mulch that makes kind of a mat layer just to kind of try and choke them out a little bit. And it might be an ongoing process to try and get those out. The other option would be to try and wipe them with glyphosate if you can, and that might take care of them after cutting them. That would be one suggestion.
All right, excellent. Okay, Loren, 2 pictures on the first one. This is a pin oak. He's wondering if this is from an insect, and if so, what? We had some discussion. It's a fairly large branch.
Yeah, and where this is a larger branch, I don't think we're looking at originally. I thought because pin oaks, you can see the oak twig girdler, and we see that commonly, but that doesn't look like it in that case. Thinking some sort of canker. Also, where it's a pin oak, it could be secondary if that tree is really being stressed from nutritional stresses like we see with so many of them being chlorotic. So take a close look at it. If you see specific limbs that are affected and look like that, I would prune those out about 4 inches back from the affected area.
All right, and 2 pics on the next one. This is a viewer who got a tricolor willow, and it had this growth on it, and it looks like it's gotten larger.
I wish we could do Q&A with our audience tonight. What does everyone think that is? I think I may have shown that earlier. So that's a crown gall. It's unfortunate in this case because that affected area will continue to grow. If you would like to, you can enjoy it because you're probably going to lose the 3 different types that you have when you cut that off and just have one left.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to treat it.
All right, and one more, and this is a Lincoln viewer. They had a hollyhock, and this had terrible rust last year. Looks like this. Anything you can treat for?
Yeah, actually, I used to do hollyhock rust trials and compare efficacy of different fungicides for hollyhock rust. This is a rust that overwinters in Nebraska locally. So if you had it last year, you will have it again. I would recommend a product that is a systemic fungicide. You can get like coppers and things like that, but you'll be treating them every 4 or 5 days to every week. If you get something with mycobutanil in it or azoxystrobin, and if you go to a garden center and just tell them that you want a systemic fungicide, that's what you're going to want to use for that.
All right, thank you, Loren. 1 pick on the first one, Scott. This is peach trees and wonders whether the blossoms froze. So you have a really good...
All right, when it comes to checking to see if your flowers have died on your fruit trees or if they've been damaged by the frost, what you want to actually do is to take a couple of those flowers apart, and you're going to take it apart and you're going to be looking for the center part of the flower. If we see if we could get a closer up photograph. All right, anyways, we want to make sure that this is the female part. We want to make sure that it's green. If it's not green, the flower probably has been damaged from the frost, but if it is green, should be fine. If it's not, it probably was damaged.
All right, thanks, Scott. 2 pictures on the next one. This comes to us from West Point. She wonders how she keeps her carrots from looking like mini aliens. And this is what the majority of them look like every year, or year over year, and she doesn't know what she's doing wrong.
These would be great to enter into your local county fair for the best dressed vegetable, but to help prevent that from happening, you really want to make sure that your soil is loosened up. A lot of times we have compacted soil, or there could be debris in the ground that has caused the root of the carrot to form. And also, you don't want to overplant. Carrot seeds are really tiny, so make sure that you space them out evenly, maybe do a seed tape, and that should help reduce this from happening.
All right, it is sort of fun.
Yeah.
And you have 2 more pictures. This comes to us from Plattsmouth. She had a Japanese tree lilac planted, and it got stripped of bark by an animal, and she made a wire cage. It survived the winter. Seems like it's growing. Anything else she can do at this point?
This is going to copy what Elizabeth says. This is the 3 W's. We're going to wait, watch, and water. We did the right thing, putting the cage up around the plant, but all we can really do is wait to see how it turns out and water when we're in times of drought.
All right, thank you, Scott. Well, fire prevention isn't just something farmers and ranchers should be worried about in rural areas. Ben Bohall from the Nebraska Forest Service offers us some tips for homeowners and acreage owners that they need to understand to prevent those fires.
Well, we kind of hit the ground running this year. In February, we had the Custer County Complex fires that took place in about north central Nebraska. And we're getting to the point now where spring just feels like it's fire season. You know, we hit the ground running for probably the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years, where as early as February, we've had a massive wildfire or two. And the problem is we're just not getting enough moisture. You know, we see these fires start as early as February and go as late as November or even December. So in Nebraska, for context, a fire season has always been, anywhere between, July to maybe October. Now we're looking at them year round. The issue is that during the winters, we're not getting enough snowpack, and during the summers, not enough rain, and then we get these unseasonably warm temperatures early in the spring, as well as these high winds, and those are recipes for wildfires. The biggest issue is that 90% of the fires here in Nebraska are human caused. And to throw another figure at you, 35% of those are pile or debris burns. And we know that those burns are obviously popular in the spring for a lot of landowners. It's a way of getting rid of all that excess, lumber or sticks, any sort of waste material. The problem is that folks will typically start those burns, and a lot of times they go unmonitored, or else folks will think they're out, when in fact they can start right back up. The reason being is when we have these springs where we have the high winds, the unseasonably warm temperatures, we have what's called radiant heat. And that heat essentially can cause one of those piles to start right back up, sometimes days or even weeks after the fact. And that's been a big issue for us here in Nebraska this past spring. So we really want to make landowners aware, yes, pile and debris burning is absolutely essential, but monitoring is as well. Obviously fires aren't just a rural issue here in the state. It can affect urban areas as well. Things like if you're outside and you're grilling out, or you're having a nice campfire with friends and family. The biggest thing to watch is what the weather looks like that day or even into the evening. If we're looking at days where the winds are over 20 miles per hour, or you're looking at humidity rates that are lower than 20%, those should be huge warning signs. We encourage folks to check the National Weather Service, monitor Facebook, see what's going on. If you're in an area that's dealing with a red flag warning day, reconsider burning. Those are the kind of days that get us. That's where we have these wildfires that get out of control, where you have all these statewide resources trying to attack this situation, and it becomes a massive problem, as we've been seeing over the past 4 years. We also rely on the FireWise program here in Nebraska, and what that program is essentially a way for folks to strategically plant around their homes. We're talking about things like not planting trees next to your house, cleaning up waste like shrubbery, even cleaning out your gutters. These are all things that are fine fuels for fires. We want to encourage folks not to have those close up to the house. That's all based off of different zones as well. We have an immediate zone, an intermediate zone, and an extended zone. And that guide kind of can tell folks, okay, here's something I could plant here, here's something that maybe I should avoid. Creates that defensible space in case you do have a fire near your home or in your neighborhood. You don't have to be in rural Nebraska for that to happen. That can happen here in the east as well.
We've had some decent moisture lately in some locations, but of course we had a very dry fall and winter. Those tips are going to help you keep those fires under control no matter what the weather conditions are. So thanks to Ben for that. All right, your first question here comes to us from Chaco Hills. This picture was taken last September, and they simply want to know what kind of beetle it is with those funky antennae.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. This is a cicada parasite beetle.
It looks like it has brooms on its head.
Yeah, the males have some really impressive antennae.
All right, 2 pictures on the next one. This is a Lincoln viewer. Says there were several of these little beetles under moist leaves. What are they, and do they cause a problem? You can see that little black thing in there.
Yeah, this is actually a true bug, kind of closely related to like a stink bug. These are white margin burrower bugs, and they don't cause harm. They feed on seeds, developing seeds, they're like in the mint family, and they're really not a problem. They don't cause any ornamental harm. So.
All right, and then we have a Nebraska City viewer for your next one picture. She's calling these orange and black beetles next to that penny, and she says she sweeps up 100 of them about every day.
Yeah, these are Asian lady beetles. So they are non-native, and they can be really big nuisance pests. They overwinter as adults, and they really like to use human structures for those overwintering spots. So what happens is in the fall, when temperatures are starting to cool, they are attracted to like the sunny side of a home, for example, and then they find their way into wall voids, attics. They get around and get in through little cracks in around windows, doors, etc. And so this time, really, there's not much you can do other than vacuum them. What you really want to do is, like in the summer or before next fall, go in and try and seal up any places where there might be entry points around utilities, cracks around doors, windows, etc., to try to prevent those from coming in.
All right, thank you very much. Your first one, Matt, this is one picture. This is the Florence area of Omaha trying to decide whether to fertilize. She did purchase a 4-step fertilizer early spring. That's interpretation. She says one of her neighbors is already on step 2. She has zoysia in one side. Is she way behind the 8 ball on this one?
I'd say no. So we're in early spring still. It's warming up fast, but putting that pre-emergent out now is fine. I mean, we're going to get warm temperatures where crabgrass is going to start germinating, so that's our goal, is to prevent that. So I would say you're perfectly fine. Get it out there and hopefully get it watered in.
All right, you have 2 pictures on the next one. This comes to us from Plattsmouth. She's wondering what this weed is and how she can get rid of this one.
So this one is another winter annual corn speedwell, and it's kind of fuzzy on the outside, and it'll make these little blue flowers. So the goal is to eradicate this before it makes the blue flowers. So using a spot spray just with the broadleaf herbicide generally works on these when they're young, but after they flower, they're going to set seed and you're going to have them next year. Or fix the thin area, and that'll help keep that, because it doesn't really fight with other plants. So
all right,
have a thick lawn.
1 pick on the next one, and this viewer is wondering what this beautiful native grass is, and they want to know how they can either transplant it or grow it from seed, or they want it.
Yeah, so this, if you have just one of these right now, if you wait years and years, that seed will eventually spread out and keep replicating. So I have the same thing at my place. I started with a few, and now they're growing thicker and thicker. Beautiful color in the fall, kind of that reddish color. So I would say seed is fine, and if you wanted to, you could probably transplant those around if you needed to, or buy transplants and plant them individually.
All right, excellent.
What is that? What kind of grass was it?
Indian grass.
Indian grass.
So it's a native.
Beautiful. All right, you have 2 pictures on the first one, Loren, and this is a Donovan viewer. She says she has black spots is this cedar rust on pear tree leaves, and what should she do about it? And I think the next one is actually from a different viewer, but it is one of the pears in question that had that rust last year.
Okay, yeah, and it's too early for rust right now on apple or pear or any of those. But in that mid-May window is usually when we see that. Some of the rust will cycle off of the juniper trees, so when you see those orange gelatinous galls forming on junipers or cedar trees, that's the time that it would be to spray, right in that window right away. The dark spots on the leaves, though, tend to make me think more of, what we might have fire blight somewhere on the tree, because that will show up as a real dark black. So look up some pictures of fire blight and see if you have anything like that on the tree and cut those out.
All right, 3 pictures on the next one. This is spruce, she said, that started dying in December. Some from the top, some from the bottom, some from the tips. They're about 20 years old, healthy now. She has not been watering, but it does seem to be moving and going to the neighbors.
A couple different things. So those are a couple different types of spruces. This one in particular that we're showing now, I believe it's a Black Hill spruce, and it has what looks to be like a canker on the top of it that would knock a large portion of that crown of the tree out. So in that particular case, probably nothing you're going to do. You could prune that out and allow that other main leader to, it looks like you still could have a reasonable looking tree. The others, it appeared to be damaged from the end. And it really has me questioning if there's not some herbicide drift coming into that just because of the distribution. That, and the drought combined could lead to an effect where the other trees look good and it's just on the side. That really makes me think it's some sort of a driftage scenario, the way it looks.
All right, and one picture on the next one. This is a globe blue spruce planted in 2018. Got a fungus, treated it with a fungicide, and then looks like this.
Yeah,
Start over?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot tell from this, and if it was a fungal disease, I really can't tell. When I see such nice looking foliage on one side, not on the other, I would follow those main pieces down and see if you don't have a canker or something that's killed that branch out if it does not produce any new needles. And then you probably need to start over.
Okay, all right. Scott, you have one picture on the first one. This comes to us from Decatur. Last week, we warned against pruning oaks. Since we're in the growing season, is it okay to prune that storm-damaged limb out of this one?
Yes, go ahead and prune out that storm-damaged limb. This is one of the few exceptions that we would actually recommend to use a pruning paint or sealant after you do the cut. That will help reduce the chance of transmission of any type of vectors of any type of insects. But oaks and elms are the ones that we recommend for pruning sealant.
All right, excellent. Two pics on the next one from Columbus. Beautiful honeysuckle vine. They want to know whether they should go ahead and prune it a little bit or leave it alone and see what happens.
It does look overgrown. You go ahead and reduce it by at least a third. Go in, take out any dead or broken vines. If it's really overgrown its space, you could go ahead and thin it out. The nice thing about honeysuckle, you would really have to work hard to kill it, so you should be fine.
Right. And you have 3 quick pictures on this next one, Scott. It is a crack in a magnolia, and they're wondering, it's a beautiful tree. Is there anything they should really do about this crack? I think we have a couple closer up pictures, or should they just like it, let it?
Yeah, it's never easy to see cracks like this. What you want to do is find out, take a look. What is this branch hanging over? Is it hanging over nothing? Then you could go ahead and leave it. But if it's hanging over something of value, like a fence, a car, a picnic bench, go ahead and take it out. We just need a little bit more information where it's at on the tree and if there's any potential targets.
All right, thank you, Scott. Well, the weather is starting to warm up this spring, but of course this is Nebraska, so that weather, it's always a question mark. Let's take a minute to hear from Gannon Rush from UNL's High Plains Regional Climate Center on what to expect this week.
Thanks, Kim. We have a pretty quiet week ahead of us. Warmer temperatures will sweep across the state this weekend, with highs in the Panhandle being in the 80s on Friday. On Saturday, this will spread into the western and central parts of the state, with some places west of McCook possibly getting into the 90s. This will move into the eastern part of the state on Sunday, and on Monday we'll have a slight cool down. By Wednesday, the majority of the state should be back in the 70s. The precipitation forecast for this week is rather brief and kind of disappointing. Only minimal amounts of precipitation are expected in a few places. If this does occur, it will likely be on Sunday night and early Monday morning. The rain we received last week in the western part of the state improved drought conditions. However, the rest of the state remained unchanged. As we get to the wettest time of the year, having a dry week like we may have could be very bad for us in the long run. And that's your weekly weather forecast. Back to you, Kim.
Thanks, Gannon. Of course, we need to take a short break. Stay with us because there is much more Backyard Farmer coming up right after these messages. Welcome back to Backyard Farmer. Coming up later in the show, we'll hear from Amy on Dothostroma needle blight. You can still phone in those questions to 1-800-676-5446. Send us those pictures and emails to byf@unl.edu. And of course, now it is time for the lightning round. Scott, you're in the hot seat. Are you ready?
Let's give it a try.
All right, we have a viewer saying that the service berries are just now flowering. They're wondering, is it too dry, too hot to set fruit? What should they expect?
It's most likely drought damage. It's been a dry fall and winter, so I would say drought.
All right. We have a Crete viewer who planted sprouted seed in newly purchased potting soil that was for seed starting. Nothing grew. Do you think that was a problem with the potting soil itself?
Probably not. If you're like me, we planted the seed too deep.
Okay. Do you have any idea, this is from a viewer who wants to know how to eradicate wild raspberries that have taken over everything?
That's a good question. It's probably going to be, we're going to do the triclopyr, that stump killer, cut and paint.
All right. This is a Hastings viewer who wonders, how would hydrangeas do in Hastings?
Say that one.
Hastings hydrangeas.
I don't know.
Good. Syracuse. Oh, too late. We can do that one later. That was a tongue twister. Hastings and hydrangeas. All right, are you ready, Loren?
I'm always ready, Kim.
Okay, here we go. This is a viewer who actually watched last week and heard us say, Amy say, spray now for cedar apple rust. She wants to know with what? It's for apples.
Oh, it's for apples.
Right.
If it's for apples, I would hold off a couple, 3 more weeks, and then look up your fruit spray guide and select the product that you like from that type of combination. If you're fruiting apples, you want to make sure you're using something that you can harvest the fruit.
All right. This is an Omaha viewer who has what he called bonsai evergreens, but they're losing their leaves. No water since last fall. Do we think that will come back?
Might. Probably not.
We have a viewer.
It's really dry.
We have a viewer who has black knot in her choke cherries, and she has 3 of them. They're the purple foliaged ones. She wonders, will it spread from one to the others?
I love black knot. It's such a beautiful thing. You can see it easily. You just prune it out about 3 inches below the knot.
All right. Moldy vegetables into the compost. Yes
Sure.
or no? Okay.
Yes.
You recovered nicely. Okay, Matt.
Yeah.
Show 'em how it's done
there
here.
you go.
All right. This is your first one comes to us from Lincoln. This is a Lincoln viewer who wants to know when they can go ahead and plant tall fescue seed.
Now, or anytime in the near month, I would say. Next month. You get into the summer, it's better to wait till fall.
Okay. We have a La Vista viewer who knows that we say, no, don't kill the winter annuals, but he really wants to now. What could he use?
Most broadleaf herbicides work if they're young. If they're old, they're probably not going to work great. They're going to set them back.
All right. This is a viewer in eastern Nebraska who wonders whether we should expect earlier crabgrass germination this year because of the weather.
Yes, initially, but then it got cold again, so now we're kind of reset, so I would guess the next 2 weeks.
All right. We have dandelions in full flower from a viewer. They want to know whether they should treat them now with something. They don't like them.
If you treat them now, you can probably set them back and get that flower away, but they're not going to probably kill them when you're setting flowers.
All right. We have a viewer who wants to know whether they can treat nutsedge at the same time as they put down seed and a pre and fertilizer.
Don't put down a pre when you're seeding unless it's like mesotrione, and that one will control yellow nutsedge in the seed bed for cool season grasses.
All right. Okay, Kyle. Last up.
Yeah.
This is a viewer who says their apple every year is ruined by apple maggots. It's not flowering yet, and they want to know whether they can go ahead and spray.
Yeah, pass.
Okay, so since the next question was spray with what, you're going to pass that one too.
Yes, correct.
Okay, we have a viewer who says they have what they're calling tiny gnats in the house all year, and they're wondering how to control them.
Well, probably from overwatering houseplants, so reduce watering.
All right. This is a viewer who says in this last weekend, ants came in, teeny tiny ones in the kitchen. Is there a way to know whether they're grease ants or sugar ants, and does it matter?
Well, it does matter. oftentimes I would just recommend using, starting off with like a sugar-based diet. My experience most often, they are going for a sugar diet. So if they don't go to that bait though, then you would switch that to a protein-based or protein-based or oil-based diet.
All right. Okay. Nice job. Let's see. Who won? Was it a tie?
No, it was right here, right in the middle. Hand it over.
Well, clearly they know.
Thank you.
Well, and obviously we haven't gotten much planted out yet at the garden, but the plants are really popping out of the ground. So here's Terri to tell us more about what's going on in the Backyard Farmer garden.
This week in the Backyard Farmer garden, we are still working in the greenhouse, but we are able to do a little bit more out in the garden. As you can see, our beds haven't been prepped yet. We will wait a couple more weeks before that soil starts to get turned over and we'll begin planting. But we have our containers planted. We see these beautiful colors out here now with our little purple and white violas. Last week we talked about our raised bed and how we have some of our cool season crops in. I just want to remind you that sometimes these cool season crops will bolt if it gets warm. And according to the weather forecast, it will get pretty warm this weekend. However, ours are still tiny enough that they should be okay. Just want to remind you of that. Also, save a few seeds and you can plant them again in August for a cool season crop. Our garden again is looking fantastic and we want to invite you down here to come visit. Remember, stop by at least once a month because it really does change, especially this time of year as everything is up and going. So stop by the Backyard Farmer garden and check it out.
Thanks, Terri. And of course, we can't wait to see how our gardens develop this year. Now it's time for us to check out the plant of the week. So Scott, you're up.
We have some really great early spring flowering plants here, or actually shrubs. The first one, this lower one, this is a viburnum. This is the prairie rose viburnum. It's a Korean spice, so it has a really nice aroma, much better than the Bradford pear that was here last week. And then this taller one here is the prairie willow. The prairie willow is a nice shrub. It can colonize. It grows to maybe 6-7 foot tall. Give it some space because it is going to spread.
All right, and I just love to combine all of these things together. So thank you very much, and our viewers can give that a shot if they want to.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott. All right, well, we have announcements next of all the really great things going on in the gardening world. The first is Kelly Norris's presentation and book signing, Saturday, April 12th from 1 to 3 p.m., Purple Dragon Company in Fremont. Our second one is the Master Gardener Plant Fair, which is Saturday, April 26th from 9 to 3. That is at Northeast Community College Ag Complex in Norfolk. And our third one is Spring Affair, Friday, April 25th, 2 to 6, Saturday, April 26th from 9 to 12 at Sand Hills Global Event Center. So there we go. All right, you have two pictures on this first one. Kyle, this is both a Lincoln viewer and a Bennett viewer, finding hydrangeas pruning, and the ends of some of the canes had a little hole in the center. They split the canes and they saw this. Is this a borer and should they do anything about it?
Yeah, this was a really interesting one. And I found like all of these sort of mysterious references to hydrangea cane borers, but couldn't actually find what did it, but came across bees doing, causing almost the identical injury in hydrangea. So I think that's probably what did this here. Some of like the small carpenter bees, some of our native bees will tunnel and nest inside of stems like this, and so I think that's likely the culprit. In which case, there's really not anything you can do. If that's what's going on, it's not going to necessarily be like a more widespread issue that's going to affect the rest of the plant. So you could just sort of prune out those individual canes.
All right, one picture on the next one. This is a Lincoln viewer, said this butterfly was sunning itself on March 17th. Did it overwinter or is it dead?
Well, so they do overwinter as adults. Yeah, this is a mourning cloak. They overwinter as adults, so hopefully it wasn't dead. And yeah, they're one of our earliest butterflies that we will see because they overwinter as adults.
All right, and one more. This is a Crete viewer who saw a few of these appear on the window screens in March. Are they a lacewing?
Yes, this is a green lacewing, and again, overwinters as adults. And I have been seeing a lot of these really anytime it's been warm throughout the winter around my deck. So
Nice. All right. Let's see. You have one picture on this one. And this one, Matt, is from Waterford Lake in Lincoln. Problems with grubs over the past 3 years. He's treated with merit. He's done all sorts of things. He wants to overseed with fescue from power rake, aerate, overseed. Anything else to improve the turf? He's adding sand. He wants to add sand or some topsoil.
Oh, okay. So I mean, the lawn looks like it's pretty good, but you're saying you're having issues with it pulling up. One issue, if it isn't grubs, it could be the type of grass that's growing in there, those yellower areas. If it happens later in the summer, could be like rough bluegrass where they get kind of stringy and rough and they pull up like it is almost grub damage because their roots are so shallow. So possibly, I mean, if you're going to overseed that one, that's fine. A lot of that seed, if it's in that thick of a lawn, is going to have a tough time growing, but you'll get some of it in there. And then maybe if it's heavily watered, back off the water a little bit, let that rough bluegrass kind of check out and the other grasses take over. Being a shallow rooted plant, if that's what it is, it loves overwatering and it'll take over the lawn and it'll just keep spreading. So yeah, I'd say overseed, and if you can, I wouldn't use sand, I'd use pulverized soil on top, and that would help a little bit more with the organics if it is a sandy soil.
All right, 2 picks on the next one, and this is a lawn that was sodded. Then all of a sudden he's got circles.
Yeah, it looks like somebody drew out there, but I'm leaning towards it being a fairy ring, a type 1 fairy ring, where there's organic matter under there that's getting decomposed and it makes that soil hydrophobic and it spreads out in a ring. So one thing to remedy that would be to try and get moisture in there and try and maybe seed those areas if you can, but a soil surfactant or like a penetrant would help with that, so soaking those areas. If you look up soil surfactant or something similar for lawns, you could find that at many different stores, and then kind of soak those areas and water them a little heavier, and then fertilize around that area too, just to promote the turf to spread in.
All right, 2 picks for you on this one from Lincoln, Loren. This is arborvitae. It's your turn for them. The one died completely, southwest orientation. They're wondering, is it weather burn, winter kill, or is there a disease or fungus for the surviving trees?
Yeah, so what's interesting about this one, Kim, if you look at the distribution, it's right on the corner. And what I would suggest there is that's a place that gets warm and drier than those adjacent areas. So especially given the winter that we had with drier conditions overall, I think we're looking at some winter injury. It may completely fail if it was really hot and dry there last summer when it was planted. So that's probably going to be a replacement.
All
and
right.
then the ones beside it. And just be careful about watering that because that heat load with the sidewalk.
Okay, and 2 pictures on the next one, and oh, look here.
Yeah.
Planted it last fall, same spot, starting to yellow, and what can they do? Is this a soil or is this a site?
I have a feeling this is mostly a site, depending on where that is in the landscape as far as orientation to the sun. A corner and a brick wall like that could be tremendously hot and dry. So may not be the best plant for there, but same thing as before. It may make it, but just really watch the watering on it and make sure you're giving it plenty.
All right, Scott, you have 1 picture on this one. This is a 30-year-old lilac. They cut it back last fall, and then there's a little bit of green, but mostly nothing. Should they cut out the larger stems or wait and see?
Go ahead and cut out those larger stems. It does look like some new growth is coming up for the roots. That's pretty typical.
All right, and 1 picture on this one. This is great. They have to have some foundation work, and they want to know whether they should go ahead and dig these peonies up or cut their losses. What should they do with this?
There's a backstory to the peonies. They've been there forever. It depends on when the work is being done. I thought that some of the information said that it was going to be done in October, which is a great time to cut them back and divide them. So ideally, wait till fall.
All right, and then 2 on the next one. Your turn for arborvitae. These are about 15 years old. One got knocked over by the crazy windstorm. The others are fine. Can they push it, stake it, cut it down? What should they do?
They should cut it down.
All right, yeah, it's impossible pretty much to get them to stand back up. Well, unfortunately, brown or gray needles in your pines are an indication that something needs attention. And like a lot of the things we talk about on this show, timing is everything. Here's Amy to give us some tips on controlling Dophostroma needle blight.
So Dophostroma needle blight is a common needle blight that we'll see on our pines, affecting a lot of our trees in Nebraska. Now, Dophostroma is going to affect those older needles, but right now is the time that we're going to start looking at those fungicide treatments. So we're going to be looking at those new candles coming out of those branches. And so as we're looking at those new needles or candles emerging, we want to wait until they're about a quarter to half elongated out. And at that point in time, then we're going to make our fungicide applications if we're looking at treating that Dophostroma. Typically, we're going to be using copper type products, so we're going to make a copper application. We need to apply it to the entire tree, and this is where we typically have to hire somebody to help us because we're looking at 50-foot trees. Once we have those applications down, we're going to make a second application 3 to 4 weeks. Now, if we go into spring that's really dry, 1 application will probably be enough. If it continues to be wet, then we need to do the 2 applications. Now, if you have an older stand of trees with lots of issues, we will be needing to make applications over multiple years to get on top of this problem. The other big trick, sanitation is huge. Make sure we're cleaning up those needles underneath, and those are all the steps that you can take to help control Dophostroma needle blight in your pine trees.
It is important this time of year for you to do that scouting on the trees and other landscape plants that are waking up in the spring. Check out those needles carefully for this disease. Do get them treated as soon as possible. Nobody wants to lose those big, beautiful pines. All right, Kyle, we have one more round of questions. So this is a Lincoln viewer who says about 10 to 15 of these smallish spiders, and they're saying, I think that's a brick joint there, half an inch. They appeared from somewhere on the side of the house on a warm day. Did they overwinter in egg sacs and hatch and then grow that fast and then just disappear, or what's going on here?
I don't think they likely overwintered in egg sacs, but yeah, I'm guessing that these are, you can't see a lot of details, but I'm thinking probably a small wolf spider. And some of those, they actually don't get that much bigger than this. So they probably, and they would, mature around this time of year for one particular genus. I think that's probably what it is.
All right. This is an Otoe County line viewer. And he found this beautiful guy or girl and wonders what that is. And if it's a good guy, is there a way to get more?
I don't know of a way to get more. It's a crab spider, and it's one of the common flower-inhabiting crab spiders. It's a good guy kind of, but they are ambush predators on flowers, and they usually attack pollinators. So,
In your estimation, it is not a good guy.
Yeah, they not necessarily the things we want them controlling in the landscape, but they're still beneficial overall.
I actually found one in a very early flowering crocus.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden there he was, and apparently waiting to ambush something.
Yeah.
All right, let's see, Matt, you have, this is from a Lexington viewer, and he apparently has at least this patch in his bluegrass lawn and is wondering how to treat this and how to bring it all back to bluegrass.
Okay, so if this is the only patch you have, it looks like smooth brome, which is a perennial grassy plant in many pastures. and it'll spread by rhizomes, so it will continue to get bigger, but usually it grows a lot faster than your bluegrass. So the easiest way to control that one is to wipe it with like a glyphosate application and not touch your bluegrass if you can, or you can dig it out and then the bluegrass will encroach in. It'll spread and cover that small area that you just cut that plant out of.
Is it like daylilies where every single piece of that rhizome then creates a new one?
It could, so it could come
Yeah.
back and you might have to dig it out again because it does have rhizomes underground that spread, so just keep an eye on it. It won't go that fast.
We hope.
Yeah.
All right, you have 2 pictures on this one. This is a Lincoln viewer. They say this whole lawn was covered with something blue last week and then watered in. They're wondering what was put down and what will it actually do. And apparently the neighbors to either side kind of just like to let whatever is growing that can be mowed grow.
So yeah, I mean it looks like a pigment of some kind. Sometimes we put pigments to make grass green. This one is a blue pigment just for the sprayer applicator so that they can tell where they've been. So I'm assuming that they just use that to determine where they've sprayed. It's a good indicator dye. Usually you get your first rain on it, it breaks down and just kind of goes away, but it does look pretty blue right now.
Okay. All right. Let's see. You have 2 pictures for this one, Loren. This is a La Vista viewer. And they're wondering what caused their plants to die. They sent us these pictures from late last summer, and obviously they're wanting to not have this happen again.
I love this picture.
Yeah.
The one that's on my list of other things to do with old pantyhose, which is so cool. Anyway, so with this though, you've got the whole vine dying, and on the other one, the whole vine was dying, and the leaves didn't look like they had spots. So I think this is bacterial wilt, which can affect our cucurbits. Best thing to do in this is make sure you're using sanitation and cleaning all that up. Hopefully that's already gone. And then just be careful to watch. That will be a cucumber beetle that will vector that. And so you can watch for those insects showing up, and then you could make an insecticide application at that point.
All right. And again, we appreciate it when viewers send us pictures saying, how do we keep this from happening instead of what do we do when it's a little bit too late?
Sanitation is a big one, though, to try to get all that material out of there because it will overwinter. And then, Kyle, I don't know, is there anything else on cucumber beetles that they should think about? No? Okay.
All righty. So let's see. We have 2 pictures on this one from Omaha, Loren. This is, they planted this tree, and so they're getting this going on. They want to know, can they save this? I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. This is elkhorn. So it's a linden, they think, and it's done this.
Unfortunately, on this one, Kim, I really can't tell. And I know there's another picture that has some leaves on the ground, and I really couldn't tell for sure from the image what it was, if it was the lower portion of the plant that had scorch or something. I really couldn't tell, unfortunately, on this one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that one was a little light to see. We couldn't darken it up. So again, that's kind of a note to our viewers. Make sure that you send us really good pictures. That could have been some scorch.
And it is ideal if we can zoom in on them, too, if they're high resolution. So.
Right. All righty. So let's see. Scott, you get the last round of pictures. The first 2 come to us from Harlan, Iowa. And he wants to know the name of this flowering plant. He says it's a little bulb. It comes up early in the spring, blooms for a couple weeks, then dies off. It was originally in a pasture in Crawford County, Iowa, 20 years ago.
This looks like trout lily or fawn lily. They are native. They're a really good plant to have. They're a pollinating plant. Our bees, early butterflies definitely like them. Give them some time. They can colonize and take over that space. And when you have a nice stand, it's definitely impressive.
All right, and last picture of the evening. This comes to us from Northeast Nebraska. This viewer was given an evergreen stick from her granddaughter 4 years ago. She planted it to keep it safe. A rabbit ate the middle out. Now she's wondering, should she do any pruning on it or just let it have a happy life for a little bit longer?
The best thing, put a cage around it so that way we don't get any type of future damage and mulch it in. It's too small to do any type of corrective pruning, but again, this is going to be wait, water, and watch. Just see how it turns out. They're super cute when they're tiny, but remember, that looks like a spruce tree, so that can easily get 30, 40 foot tall. So make sure it's in the right location, or else you can have some issues 10, 15 years down the road.
Well, that's a really good thought, Scott, because right now that would be a nice, simple little tree to dig up.
Yes, it would be super easy to move if it's not in the right location. They want good air circulation to help reduce any of those type of fungal issues. But right now, just leave it alone, put that cage around it to prevent any more rabbit damage.
All right, and spruce are awesome until they get Loren's diseases, and of course he doesn't like tree diseases anyway. Well, and you know what? We have run out of time for tonight's program. We will be here all season to answer your questions. Thank you to everybody who submitted those questions and pictures for this week's show, and to our panel as well. Helping us on the phones this evening, we had Gary Bell, Caitlin DeCoster, and Nebraska Extension educator Terri James. Next time on Backyard Farmer, we'll be showing you how to water your home landscape trees properly. After a dry fall and winter, your trees need a good drink of water to get them ready for the growing season. And of course, don't forget to stop at the Backyard Farmer website, byf.unl.edu. Sign up for that monthly newsletter. So good night, good gardening. We'll see you all next week, right here on Backyard Farmer.